Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's show. I hope you're having a good week and things are going well for you. A couple of weeks ago, we had a Meet the Staff episode for the New Haven Symphony, in which you all got a chance to see our wonderful team behind the scenes. And it occurred to me that we might take that one step further this week and do a deeper dive into something that's incredibly important to the New Haven Symphony and has also been an important theme throughout my musical career, and that is education. Our education programs are something of which we are most proud, and I thought that it would be a great opportunity for you to find out a little bit more about what they are and who runs them. And so I'd like you to join me in welcoming my very special guest tonight, the Director of Education for the New Haven Symphony, my colleague and friend, Caitlin Daly Gonzalez. Good evening, Caitlin.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. It's great to see you as always.
Yeah.
And as I said, some of the people that would have watched a couple of weeks ago would have gotten a little taste of who you are and what you do. But just as a refresher course for them and as an introduction to anybody that's watching for the first time, tell us a little bit about your life in music so far, what your background is, and how you came to the New Haven Symphony.
Oh man. Well, how long do we have?
Long as you want.
This could be a 5-hour story if I wanted it to be.
Well, let's
I'll
start
try
at the very beginning.
Yes. Well. All right. So I was born in Windsor, Connecticut, which is right outside of Hartford. It's right to the north of it. And I always loved music. Neither of my parents played anything. I started playing flute in 4th grade just randomly because I wanted to. My brother, liked the trumpet and saxophone or whatever. But I knew by the time I got to high school that I wanted to do something in music, but I wasn't quite sure what. And in high school, like many people, I thought that the only two options for having a career in music were to be a music teacher or to be a performer, a professional musician. And then, so I switched to bassoon my freshman year of high school. Love that.
Was that an easy transition?
Yes and no. So I had to learn how to read bass clef. So that was probably the roughest part. But I have a raging case of ADD. You guys will know that in 2 seconds. And the bassoon has a bunch of keys and buttons. Like your left thumb controls like 12 silver shiny things. So it was a fantastic instrument for me. Never ran out of buttons to push. So it was super fun. So probably learning bass clef was probably the hardest part. And then my senior year of high school, I took AP Music Theory. My high school band director, Doug Mayer, have no idea if he's watching tonight or will ever see this, but he was just an incredible person. He's like why I'm here today. But so he taught us AP Music Theory, and that's when I discovered composition. And so I was like, oh, I want to be a composer. However, I didn't really decide that until second semester, senior year of high school. So probably like February or March. And by that time, I'd already committed to a music education school, a fantastic one, Hartwick College in upstate New York. And so I went there for a year for my freshman year of college, but they didn't have music composition. So I ended up transferring to Central Connecticut State University for my undergrad. I majored in music theory and composition there. And my mom was terrified. She was like, what are you going to do as a music composer? And I was like, Mom, I'm going to write music for movies. Like, duh. I'm going to be the next John Williams. I'm going to be a music.
Absolutely.
And so she said, well, if you're going to be a music composition major, you need to add a minor. So she's thinking education, business. And I came back to her and I said, sociology. She's like, what? She was like, what are you thinking? So she let me do it. I minored in sociology. I loved that subject. And it came back later, as I'll get to. So probably about, I think it was my last semester of undergrad at Central, and somebody asked, are you going to go to grad school? And I was like, oh, am I supposed to? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, you need to do that. So I took a year off. Also, it was May of senior year. So I'm not going to get into grad school in May of your senior year of college for the next year. So I took a year off. And then I moved out to Hawaii and I lived there for 4 years. I started getting a master's in music composition and I completed all the coursework for it. But along the way, I discovered musicology, which many people think is the history of music, but it's more broadly the study of music. So that's where sociology kind of came into play. So with sociology, you could pull in anthropology, you could pull in psychology, all these things, and talk about music and kind of how they all interact. So I studied hip hop music that samples classical music. I always love throwing different genres of music together. And then I could compose too. So I composed classical music that sampled hip hop as well. In my thesis, I created a taxonomy because I'm, real smart. Created a taxonomy and then took a guess as to why some producers, did what they did with classical music. And then, so I finished that degree and I stayed in Hawaii for an extra year to teach at Hawaii Tokai College, which was all Japanese students who came from Japan as part of the Tokai system and were in Honolulu. So I taught them. And then I also taught Introduction to Music Appreciation at University of Hawaii at Manoa, right where I graduated from, which is your basic music appreciation course for undergrads who need a humanities credit. Loved it. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Then I walked around India for a little bit, came back, didn't know what I was going to do. At that point, I think I was making $750 a month. My rent was $650. I was eating peanut butter. That was it. Couldn't afford anything else. So I moved back to Connecticut and got a third master's in education. And also got certified to teach K through 12. And so then that brought me back to Connecticut. So I went through, did my student teaching, did a whole bunch of internships, did a whole bunch of everything. And the biggest thing through all of this is that I hate performing music in front of people. So in undergrad, I had to play my bassoon in front of people. I would barf all the time. I hated it. And when I got to student teaching, I realized that conducting gave me that same feeling. So the first day of student teaching, I'm up there just, don't barf on the flutes. Okay, here we're gonna go. So if there was a secondary education position where you were just teaching music theory and music history, but you didn't have to teach band, which is normally what people want to teach, that would have been me, but that just doesn't exist anywhere.
So you don't have the performance gene.
Yes, it just missed me. It just skipped over me. I just didn't want to do that. So then I was very lucky, and one of my friends who was working with me at the time at Eastland Middle School gave me the job opening for New Haven Symphony Orchestra. And I was just like, I have all those skills, I can do this. And so I very luckily got the job. It was a pretty steep learning curve because the field is arts administration, which is the only thing I don't have a degree in. But after that first year, I learned kind of the position and what everything kind of entailed. And it's just been my dream job, just a perfect fit. So I'm very lucky.
Well, let's get to that dream job. And by the way, for those of you that are listening, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. I have a couple of them online. I promise you I'll get to them in due course. But let's talk first about what your responsibilities are as education director. What does the job entail?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot. So I always kind of tell my friends to boil my job down as best I can into the broadest terms. I kind of look at it as having two big jobs. One is to get our musicians out into the schools, community, out anywhere in there. And then the other one is to see what the community needs, what they want. It might be to come in and see us at Woolsey Hall. It might be for us to come to them and do, a smaller chamber ensemble there. So it's more interacting with the community and seeing what their needs are in there. So I'm going to share my screen for a little bit. And this is kind of what I show people. This is kind of what my job looks like on paper. So we have kind of 4 different sections of how we break things down. So we have in-school programs, So this would be like you or Chelsea Tipton, like Mice on the Move. So this is when you guys would just head on out there and hang out with the students, in classrooms and work with them. It might be an instrument discovery zone, which is like an instrument petting zoo where like kids can try out real orchestral instruments. It might be sending in a musician with a book who will read to younger kids, like first graders, and read the story and bring it to life. So there's a lot of things that we can do in the school system. Then there are three concerts that specifically fall under the education department umbrella. So one is our family concerts. These take place in the winter, and they're small chamber ensembles. And they sort of introduce our youngest audience members. We say that it's for ages 3 through 9, but really it's like birth to 15. And they come in and we pick music that's specific to them around a theme. So next year would be music and animals. So one thing we're going to do is have the Beardsley Zoo. We're going to partnered with them a few years ago. They're going to bring live animals in. And so we're going to watch how the animals move. And then we're going to hear how the music sounds and if it mimics like the shape of how the animals move. We also have our young people's concerts. I think this year was supposed to be our 88th annual concert from those. And this is a big field trip experience where we can bring people into Woolsey Hall. It's usually for like 3rd through 6th grade, but really we get K through 12. And they get to hear the whole orchestra play and get awed by the sounds of the full orchestra. And then School Night at the Symphony, which is one of our classic series where we invite all students and families and teachers to come in for free. So those all fall kind of under the education jurisdiction.
And those are really 3 different types of experience as well, aren't they?
Yes.
Because the family concerts are really very small ensemble-based things, and young people's concerts are a full orchestra, but not a huge orchestra.
Correct.
Yep. And School Night of the Symphony is the absolute biggest orchestra.
Yep.
So there's quite a wide, I guess what I'm saying, it looks like there's quite a wide range of experiences that we can offer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's great for different ages for what they experience in there. Yep. And then a third one, we have student opportunities. So we have a lot in here, and everything, all of these are free. So for example, we have our Young Composer Project. We just met with them today. This is for advanced high schoolers who are interested in studying music composition, and we pick a composer in residence, and then it's a 2-year-long program where the high schoolers get to study with that composer in residence, and then they write small chamber ensembles for NHSO musicians who then play it and record it, so that the college students can use it on college applications. We also have a lot of interns that come in. We have a lot of high school ushers that come in. That's a great experience for any high school kids that need community service hours. So they come in, they get to hear the concert for free. They just help seat people, bring them to their seats. They read tickets to help bring them there. They get to watch the concert for free. They can do homework in the back if they need to, and they get about 4 hours of community service.
I used to do that as a kid in Edinburgh growing up.
Yeah.
Orchestra.
Yeah, it's a great way to see things for free, and it's amazing, and you just get like this great education totally for free. So It's awesome. And then we also have our Harmony Fellowship. These are for underrepresented musicians who are either currently in grad school for music performance or have kind of like just graduated out of there. And that's just to help give them an extra boost. So they get to perform and rehearse with the orchestra. They get to form a quartet. So it's 2 fellows and 2 of our roster members. They go out into the schools and deliver some other educational programs, which is awesome for them. That's a 2-year fellowship. We also have a conductor fellowship and a board fellowship and an administrative fellowship too. So it's really blossomed. It's a great one. And then our last category is in the community, which can be anything from us bringing a quartet to a library to writing program notes for kids. I write those like the old highlights magazines where they're really colorful. They have scavenger hunts and they're all for the classic series. So kids can come in and listen and help be guided through the music. We have an annual art contest, and then there's a big teacher resource center, which I'll kind of get to maybe a little bit later. But that's kind of the big overview. That's basically my job on paper. It's my job to just do all that.
So my question might be somewhat tongue in cheek: is how do you have any time to sleep while you're doing that? But let me bring in a question that comes here from Christopher Clark, who has a slightly better focused question and very relevant at this point. He asked, "What is the favorite part of your job?"
Oh man, I think why I love my job so much, and why I want to be here for forever and ever, is that no day is the same. And I think that that's my favorite part of my job, is that every day is totally different. And there are different parts of the year. So Alistair asked, like, how do I sleep? So there's a part of the year between, I'd say, mid-January to maybe the end of April, and I call that my busy season, and I just don't sleep. That's when like YPCs happen and family concerts and everything, kind of happens all at once. And I kind of go wild with it, but I know that the summer is going to be a little bit more relaxed and I'll be able to catch my breath then. So, but the favorite part of my job is just that no 2 days are the same. I can be out in the schools. I can be in my office planning. I'm maybe out meeting a community member. So I just get to meet everybody. And I think maybe at the very core of that is that I still get to go into schools, because I miss, you can take a teacher out of the classroom, but it's really hard to sort of take the classroom out of the teacher. And I miss having my own, classroom and developing those long-term relationships with students. And the fact that I can still go into schools and get to know some students and work with them and do that, but without the grades, without the behavior problems, without the calling of the parents, without the grades, all that. It's the sweet spot of it all.
Can you talk a little bit more about our relationship with the public school system? Because it's so important. And we have so many wonderful things going on in the public school system and the arts in New Haven. I wonder if you could just expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky that New Haven has such an incredible art scene just already. I think it's funny. I don't think I realized it growing up that Connecticut it's kind of regionalized. So like growing up in Hartford, like Hartford was my city. That's where I went. So I really had never been to New Haven until I started working there. And when I got there, I was like, why, where has this been all my life? It's incredible. It's got an incredible art scene. My husband and I are currently looking at houses to move there. We are like dying to be like just New Haveners, like at heart there. So the school system is just incredible, particularly the music programs in there. So we're very lucky, unlike a lot of other places in the state or across the country. Last I checked, every school in New Haven has a music teacher that's there, a certified music teacher that's there, which is pretty incredible. There are
that bears repeating, that isn't it, don't you think? I mean, that struck me as well when I heard that. I was like, are you really? That is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I mean, I would be remiss to not mention Ellen Most, who's the performing arts supervisor for New Haven, and she's done a great job. She makes sure to advocate and fight for that very thing, because it's so, I mean, arts are just so important to children's upbringing and learning and creativity, and I could go down that rabbit hole, but I'm gonna just stay out of there. But they're so important, and we're so lucky that New Haven has that ability to have a music teacher in all the schools. So we have a really great relationship with them. Ellen is kind of my gateway to the city. So I ask her, I say, okay, I have this program, and she'll say, okay, I want you to go here, so that it's kind of equitably, kind of distributed throughout the city, so that not everybody is missing everything. And, she kind of sees it all and knows what people need and what they don't need. So she's a really great partner to work with. Yeah, so it's just been, and then it's been lovely just to get to know teachers over the past 5 years. I've known a few because I went to college with them. So I've been lucky there, but the people that I didn't know before I started the job I mean, they're incredible. New Haven has the best music teacher. Well, okay, I can't say that because the state of Connecticut has pretty awesome music teachers, but yeah. New Haven has a very special place for me.
As you know, I'm still the new kid in town, but and my first season got cut short, let's say, a little bit, and just at the time of year that I would be spending more time in the schools, and so that's a particular source of sadness to me that I was, as you and I were talking about earlier on in the year, I was looking so forward to so many of these school visits, but they will happen at some point.
Yes.
really wonderful. You mentioned your composition earlier, and a question has come in, and I don't know if you were able to answer that from Tana or Tane, who's asking, are there platforms where we can hear some of your compositions?
Oh, that's fun. I think that's Anton from our Young Composers.
Oh, good one, Anton.
That's really funny.
Are there?
No, I don't even know the last time I listened to it. I think that the last time I composed something was probably, it was a wedding present to a friend in 2012 maybe. So I haven't composed in a really long time. I've arranged things here and there for different things. This year was interesting. I had to arrange for an erhu, which is like it's kind of like a Chinese version of like a violin. It's a two-string kind of fiddle instrument, and I had to learn a whole new notation, and that was awesome. But yeah, I think I would. I'd probably have to play them for you at some point, and I'd have to find them somewhere too. They're probably on a flash drive somewhere.
Absolutely. Lisa Homan asks, is there a chance that the YPC can take place in the fall?
Ooh.
Probably too soon to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it depends on everything. I mean, at this point, everything depends on everything.
Yeah.
So there's that to contend with, and then it's something to think about. I think Lisa, by the way, is one of our fabulous musicians. She's on our education committee, and she's in our violin section. So it's definitely worth it to discuss. I think that we might have used to maybe done something in the fall, but we found that more schools in March, before all the testing starts in April, that March is kind of a sweet spot for having schools be interested in bringing them in. Last year we completely like sold out of all the performances. So I'm not sure. It's a great question. So I think half of it depends on the powers that be, and then the other half is just scheduling, just in terms of it, because
one of the many question marks over the fall.
I know.
Which I suppose brings me to my next question. What have you been working on? Any specific projects since this whole COVID-19 situation began?
Yeah, so my first week was like super hectic. I was like, how am I this busy working from home? But it was essentially that I had to cancel everything that had to do with the YPC, which took more than like scheduling them. It was wild. I had to contact a bunch of people. Let me share my screen again, and then I can show you. I've been working mainly on two big projects, and I just finished the second one today, so I'm really excited about it. So mainly I've been creating things for teachers to use in their classroom. So both of these that I'm about to show you can be found if you go to our website, which is newhavensymphony.org, and you scroll over our Learn, and then under the Teachers tab. So the two that I've been working on are Listen Up Quiz Center and the Instrument Selection Resource Center. The Teacher Resource Center has like a bunch of resources. There's some curriculum in there. There's just a bunch of random things that teachers can always use in there. But the two new ones are the Quiz Center and the Instrument Selection Center. So the Quiz Center, this is for high school teachers. It's based off of our podcast. Specifically the first season of our podcast. So each episode took a building block of music. So like melody, rhythm, harmony, dynamics, texture, something like that. And then it describes what that building block is, and it explains it and explores it using multiple genres of music. So it's not just classical, but there's rock, there's pop, there's hip hop, there's salsa, there's a whole bunch of different things. So you get the idea of it across different genres. What I did is I created a Google quiz. So teachers can either send their students to this website, they listen to the website here, and then they fill out the quiz. And because it's a Google quiz, it automatically grades it. So it's no extra work for the teacher. And then they can put the grade in their Google Gradebook. There's also a way, if they can't use SoundCloud, which some school districts don't allow, I also have a way for teachers to download the quizzes and the MP3 so that they can just put that themselves in their own Google Classroom. So that's one for high school. What's up?
You've thought of everything.
Yeah. I just remember my time in the classroom and like, what would be helping me right now? And I want to make it as easy as possible for teachers. Like I remember what it was like, and it's just, to be a teacher is just, it's mayhem. It's wild. So anything I can do to help, I'm happy for it. The second one, I actually just finished today. And right before we started, I put it up on Facebook thinking like, oh, maybe this will help like a teacher or two. And I got requests for 200 teachers. They want this. So I'm going to be very busy tomorrow. So this one is for elementary teachers, and this is around the time, and actually a little bit later, when they would start recruiting for their beginning bands for next year. So they would go in, they'd teach the kids about the instruments, they'd demonstrate them, they would sort of test the kids on different things, and then they would know kind of what the instrument selection was going to be for each student so that they'd be ready for it in the fall. So what I've done here is create a website with all these resources in one place. So it opens up with my crazy face here. And that's just me talking directly to students saying, don't listen to your friends. What do you want to play as an instrument? Don't follow the crowd, etc. And then I have 3 different tests. One that tests their ability to keep a steady beat. One gives them different tones from low pitches up to high pitches, and it asks them which they found more pleasant. And then a pitch test, which measures pitch sensitivity. So you hear 2 tones, and you have to tell us, is the second one higher or lower than the first pitch? And it can get really, like, they can sound really close together. And then there's 2 forms, one which is more qualitative. So it asks the students to tell the teacher what instruments they want to play and why. And one's more quantitative. And this is all the test scores and everything that comes with it. So you can kind of look at numbers. There are teachers that do a combination of both, one or the other. So I created it for both. Again, for teachers, since it's a Google site, I can literally duplicate this entire website if they wanted to do anything there. They can update their tests there. And then there's a parent section. And then here, this is where the kids, there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos, and it's broken down by sections. So if we wanted to, let's go with bassoon. Here, there's a bassoon demo. You can hear a bassoon and a contrabassoon together. There's a pop song for it. And then of course, Sorcerer's Apprentice, because you can't demonstrate the bassoon without that. So kids can go through, they can listen to hear what the sounds of the instrument sounds like. So that's my newest one.
It's so fascinating to see, because it just, I think it's a really wonderful example of just the multiplicity of resources that are available thanks to you and your work at the symphony. It really is mind-blowing that there's just so much stuff out there that covers so much ground for so many people, and I think that's really wonderful. I want to forward a couple of things here. I want to say one more question here that from Rita Holby, who asks, will you have any more children's programs with the symphony? Which I'm not quite sure I understand this, since John had that experience, and I wanted to have Anna enjoy that experience also.
Rita was my justice of the peace. She's my best friend's mother.
I had a feeling that there would be a reason behind this. You all understand the question better than I. Okay.
So hello, Rita. I call her my mom number 3. Yes, so those, so the one she's talking about is when one of my best friends, Kristen, her daughter, brought her son Johnny up to one of the family concerts, and it was a Peter and the Wolf concert, which was great. So it was one of the family concerts. So those happen every year. January, there's a weekend in January, a weekend in February, and a weekend in March. So those will be back next year. And yes, our theme is music and animals. So it'll be super fun.
Super fun. So, just maybe one last question from me. Clearly, in the nature of your job, you cover so much ground, and you are in contact with so many people, and it's just been wonderful to get a sense of your enthusiasm and passion for the job. That is absolutely, it's not even a job, it seems to me a calling for you. Job is almost a demeaned way, you know what I mean?
Very lucky.
You don't give me the sense that you're clocking in for work. It's just, you're fulfilling your life stream, and that's the most beautiful thing. So there must be some experiences that you've had that stand out amongst others, whether it's with a child or any part of the education program. If you have any good stories you want to relate that have been particularly meaningful, either moving or fun or
Yeah.
cute, any combination of the above.
Yes. Besides like um, the daily interactions with the staff, I love our staff. Our staff is ridiculous together. And I love our musicians. They're always so fun to hang out with and see. But I kind of think there's different experiences because some of the programs that we run are kind of more short term. Like they might just be kind of like a one-off. So like we'll go visit a classroom and do like an instrument discovery zone. And so I get kind of one interaction with these kids for like an hour and then that's it. And then there are other longer term programs, and those have kind of a different reward and different stories that come out of those. So for kind of the one-off visits and those I find to be like the most funny that I remember. So I told the story 2 weeks ago. So if anybody has heard this, I'm sorry, but one of my favorites was it was a couple years ago, and we were doing an instrument petting zoo to Boys and Girls Club. And this little boy came up to me and he had a trumpet in his hand and big smile on his face, was coming running up. And I was just like, oh, this is gonna be great. He looks so excited. Like I bet he just made a sound on the trumpet and he's so stoked about it. And so he came running up and he just goes, I lost a tooth. It's in there. And he's blown so hard. The tooth just came out.
Oh no.
Amazing. I love that one. And then another story with the trumpet. Our poor trumpet has just seen so many stories. There's another one. We were doing a petting zoo with IRIS, which is the integrated refugee something integrative services, something about that. But it places incoming refugees into homes and gives them job training and language coaching, and it's an amazing organization. But we visit there every summer, and so there is this little this little boy, and so we told him, we were like, try the trumpet, and he just put it up to his mouth and just made, I think he played like a double high C. I don't even know what came out, but it was like just this huge like high pitch, and he just like was just shocked at the sound that he had like produced, and we're like, oh my, good job, like play it again. And he's like, nope. Just like walked away. He was just nope. He had just scared the crap out of himself.
Well,
it was so funny.
Those high notes are pretty hard, so maybe he just
it was. I was just
while I'm ahead.
Yeah, trumpet players work for years to get up there, and he was just like first note there. It was pretty amazing. And then one of my other favorites was when one of the Harmony Fellowship quartets went to visit a third grade classroom. So one of the programs that they run is a conflict resolution workshop. So the four of them talk as a quartet to sort of explain how they overcome conflict as a group, because there's no conductor in the group to tell them, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. They have to figure it out for themselves. So they run through some scenarios and they kind of play fight and mock fight and then explain how they work it out in a group. So one of the musicians was complaining. He was mocking. He was pretending that he wanted to play his piece next. It was his selection. It was his turn, and he wanted to play this song. And everybody else was like, we took a vote, this song is going to be next. And so he pretended to kind of walk out of the room, like in a huff. And this third grader just gets up and was like, dude, we already talked about this. You're okay. Everything's fine. Like, he was just very concerned for him. So it was amazing.
Dude, we already talked about this. That's
yeah, dude, we already talked about this. Like, we already did this. It's so funny.
That could cover so many things.
Yeah, it was hysterical. So those are kind of like my funny memories. And then the rewarding memories are kind of the ones where the longer term ones, right? So we just had a young composer meeting today with just, incredible. They've been in the program this is their third year. They're both graduating seniors who, one is going to Frost School of Music, the other one's going to NYU. You forget that they're high schoolers. They're like brilliant. And to watch them develop and their compositional style, they explore new things and learn things that's just, it's like my favorite. That's just so great to watch them. We do a songwriting project where the Harmony Quartet goes into Wilbur Cross, and we team up with students in a class who have no music composition background, like don't even play musical instruments. And we work with them to create a string quartet that they write themselves, and then it gets recorded in a real recording studio. And that is super rewarding every year to see these kids in a studio hearing their piece performed, and like they didn't know anything about a string quartet at the beginning of the semester, and like that one is just super rewarding too. And then there's always the goosebumps I get at like YPC when I kind of peer out from backstage and see our orchestra, you know, playing their hearts out and just playing these beautiful music for like these third graders that have never seen a live orchestra perform before. Like there's always that goosebump moment. So that's always super rewarding too. So yeah, I just have like the best job in the world.
Well, we are so lucky that you think that you have the best job and that you bring this incredible passion and joy and enthusiasm to every ounce of your work. I'm just so grateful to have you as a colleague and a friend, and I thank you for the last 45, 30 minutes or so we've had with each other, and I hope everybody listening has a really renewed understanding of what the symphony's commitment is to education. And I'm so proud to be part of that team, not least because that's something that's been part of my life since the very beginning, because my mother was a music school teacher. So it's just before, you know, it's always been part of my life, and I'm so happy to be part of the team. And again, I thank you for being my guest this week.
Yes, absolutely.
And next week, I will be joined by the wonderful pianist Jeremy Jordan, who under normal circumstances would have been appearing on stage with us a week from now as part of our classical series 8, our season finale. He would have been performing the Ravel left-hand piano concerto, but instead he's going to be joining me in conversation and hopefully with a little musical component as well. So I hope that you'll join me for that. And in the meantime, once again, my great thanks to Caitlin. Big hugs from across the country. And everybody have a great week. See you soon. Bye for now.